Colten Ellis finally gets into a game and he pitches a shutout. A great night for the Sabres on the ice and in the standings. Coming up on the Locked On Sabres podcast.
Your Locked On Sabres, your daily podcast on the Buffalo Sabres. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody, and welcome in Friday edition of the Locked On Sabres podcast. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. You can watch our show on YouTube. Be sure to like and subscribe. And if you are interested in our Locked On Sabres Discord or listening to the show ad-free, go to our Locked On Sabres Everydayers Club at lockedonsabres.supercast.com. That is the place to sign up. Sneaky Joe DiBiase heading into the weekend, an off day for the NHL. No games in the league for some reason on Friday, but there was a lot to handle on Thursday. Maybe we all need to take a breath and evaluate where we're at in the standings, what we're rooting for, the schedules of all these teams. There's a lot to get to around the league, around the Sabres, coming up on today's show. And of course, an incredible night in the building, on the ice. Colten Ellis, the star of the show. Josh Doan, what a night for him. An incredible goal that he scores in the third period. I've got some numbers on him later on that are eye-popping. And it was just a great night overall against a desperate Blue Jackets team that I don't really feel like played that desperate. I think that team is just, they got nothing left in the tank. They pushed and pushed and pushed to dig out of the bottom of the standings, kind of like the Sabres did, but they just don't have the talent that the Sabres do. So I don't think they could really rely on that as often. Whatever, they don't have enough left in the tank. Columbus is now 4 points out of a wild card spot. They are still, amazingly, because those teams in the Metro race below Pittsburgh are really falling apart at the end here. Columbus is amazingly 2 points out. So they're still behind Philly, but they needed it last night. And the Sabres kept the lead, and then just ran them over in the third period. Colten Ellis standing on his head at times to get them to that point. So we'll get to Ellis, the future of Ellis, but what his role might be now, given that Alex Lyon has a more significant injury than we thought. And we also got an update on Sam Carrick. So there's a lot to get to on today's show. And the Sabres are off until Monday. So we have a couple of days here until they're back in action. 3 days off. And then I'd imagine it'll be Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. They will have an opportunity, maybe, to clinch the division on Monday. It's going to depend what we get tomorrow, and we'll talk about that later on in the day. But we got to start things off with Ellis. The night that he had, the context, the situation that he's walking into. Colten Ellis had not started a hockey game since February 3rd. That game against the Lightning shortly before the Olympic break. Sabres were winning that game, blew the lead in the final minute. They end up losing in overtime. It was a fine game by Ellis. That was a lot of his season. Fine. Not bad. The average save percentage in the NHL this season for all goalies is .896. It's a little bit down this year. Ellis was hovering right around that number. He actually might even been exactly .896 before last night. But you would get a 37 save shutout, and you've only started 12 games on the year, this being your 13th, your numbers are going to shoot up. And that's what happened. A .904 save percentage now on the year. He's above 6 goals saved above expected, which is really good for a goalie that has played as little as he has. It ends up looking like a great rookie year for a guy that also had no consistency in his schedule and when he was playing, often months at a time, like what we just saw before getting a start. And yet, good numbers. Good numbers for Colten Ellis, 25 years old, great AHL career, great AHL numbers, really good junior numbers, 3rd-round pick, which is not a first-round guy, but not a 7th-round guy, undrafted guy, and you'll have goalies come from there as well. The top goalie prospect of the St. Louis Blues organization, their Devin Levi. 13 games, good numbers, 25 years old. I think he is in line to be an NHL goaltender, and he should be a regular NHL goaltender next year, with a regular rotation. And I hope that does happen here, but we've got time to talk about what that will look like in the future, whether that will mean Lyon being traded in the summer or a 3-goalie rotation again, but with more starts for Ellis, whether Levi gets traded. We'll get to that after the playoffs are all over and we have a summer to talk about things. But last night, he was dialed in, tracking pucks. That to me was the most impressive thing about Ellis. He was seeing the puck. There was a play in the 3rd period that really showed that off where Samuelsson was engaged with a Columbus forward right in front of him, and he peeked around Samuelsson to the right, and the wrist shot from the point was going to his left, and he slides from where he's looking to his left, puts the glove up. He's going blind for a moment, right? He's going to lose sight of the puck as he goes from Samuelsson's right to Samuelsson's left. But because of the positioning and knowing where that puck is headed, he's got the glove there. He makes the save, and it's an easy catch and no rebound available. And there were a lot of saves like that where he's dipping and diving through guys and getting a track on it. There was the one, you can't have a whole Colton chaos game without some chaos. We had that sequence in the 2nd period where he did lose sight of the puck, and it was under him for a moment, and then it was under one of the Sabre defensemen that had kind of dove down on the ice, and it was scrambling around there. Finally, he's like thrown back. Then he gets up, makes a save, puck gets cleared, and all that chaos somehow messed with, I think, his sight, because I'm glad the Sabres posted the video when they did the big save of the game later on in the broadcast, MSG. That sequence, after it all happens, the puck goes out to the neutral zone. Again, something's going on with Ellis visually. He takes off his mask in the middle of the play. Columbus gets the puck back. They start coming in on the zone. Ellis whips his hair back, fixes his hair to get it out in front of his face so he can see, and then throws the mask on, grabs his stick, looks up, here they come. And within 2 seconds of grabbing his stick on the ice and having fixed his hair, there he is making another fantastic pad save. The aura involved in that was awesome. And he was just incredible. He made 2 great diving across saves in the 3rd period. One to his left on the power play, kind of a broken play there. And he launches out, makes the save, and gets the coverage. There was the one on the right. Actually, this came before, because the penalty that Tage Thompson took was on the 2-on-1. Then he made the big save on the power play. But the one that created that penalty was a 2-on-1. Samuelsson couldn't defend it. Pass gets across. Ellis goes towards his right and is able to get a blocker on it, kind of attacking the shooter. Awesome save by him. He had a couple of those. It was a fantastic game from Ellis. The game's number 1 star, got the belt from his teammates in the locker room, and it was important that he showed everybody, I can do this. We're good. Lyon got hurt in practice, lower body injury. Lindy says he's going to be out until the playoffs, and he may miss the start of the playoffs. So no way he's in the rotation at the start of the postseason, and doesn't sound like he's going to be the number 2. So if Luukkonen, if anything happens to him, then who's your guy? Well, Lyon, it doesn't sound like is going to be available to you. You might need Ellis. He's a heartbeat away from being in the net in the playoffs. And if he hadn't played at all leading into that, I'd be nervous. Fans would be nervous. Probably the coaches and the players in front of him would either be nervous or they at least just wouldn't know what to expect. But there he is putting that game out there, a 37-save shutout for everybody to see. We're good. If we got to get to me, yeah, we all hope this doesn't happen. I'm not as good this season as Luukkonen has been. I'm a rookie. I barely played. I shouldn't be. But if something were to happen, you're not down to some AHL guy that you totally don't trust. Like, no, you can reasonably expect that Ellis could give you a good game if he had to play. We hope Lyon gets back. Lyon should still be this team's number 2. He's earned that all year long if he's available. He is also the veteran, but Ellis showed if he's got to play in meaningful games, it might not be the end of the world. It would just be, a situation you would like to not find yourself in. So a great win for him and an 8-4-1 record. 8-4-1. It's a good record for the Sabres goaltender. And he gets the shutout. That is the 4th time in Sabre history that 3 goalies have had a shutout in the same season. Lyon had 3 this year. Luukkonen had 1. And then Ellis also had 1. So it kind of puts a bow on a fantastic regular season from their goaltending. Just like the best well-balanced goalie season I think I've ever seen watching this team. Maybe in 06, Miller and Baron and a little bit of Norris at the beginning is close to that. But especially in the last 15, 20 years, they've never had 2 guys play as well as the Sabres have had this year. And they certainly have never had 3 guys play as well as they have this year. Your final numbers for Lyon and Ellis, if this is it: goals saved above expected, 23 for Lyon, saved above expected, 6.2 for Ellis in only 15 games. Those marks are both really stellar amongst goalies in the NHL this season. Out of, we're talking 100 goalies, 88 goalies on the year. And this is by total. Lyon is 15th. You've got Luukkonen at 23rd, and you've got Colten Ellis at 46th. And again, that's a volume stat. So Ellis for comparison this year, 6.2 goals saved above expected is higher than Freddie Anderson, who started 21 more games than he did, or more than Artur Silvas of the Pittsburgh Penguins, who started 37 games on the year. Ellis, as good as Brandon Bussey, who played 20 more games. UC Saros, who started 40 more games. Really good numbers from him on the year. When we come back, some other observations: Josh Doan, Zach Benson, and an interesting question about Noah Östlund when he returns to the lineup. Coming up on Locked On Sabres. Today's episode of the Locked On Sabres podcast is presented by Quo. Spring is a natural reset point. If there's one thing that can quietly cost business money, it's messy communication. Missed calls, scattered texts, no clear thread of who said what. That's why today's episode is brought to you by Quo, spelled Q-U-O, the smarter way to run your business communications. Quo is the #1 rated business phone system on G2 with over 3,000 reviews, trusted by more than 90,000 businesses. Lets your entire team share one business number so you never miss a call, text, or opportunity. Everything lives on one clean thread. Calls, text, voicemails. The whole team sees the conversation, so nothing falls through the cracks. And the AI summaries have serious time by logging calls and highlighting the next steps automatically. It just makes your business feel more organized and responsive. Make this season no opportunity and no customer slips away. Try Quo for free. Get 20% off your first 6 months at quo.com/locked Locked On NHL. That's quo.com, quo.com/Locked On NHL. Quo. No missed calls, no missed customers. Sneaky Joe DiBiase back here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. 5-0 Sabres over the Blue Jackets. Colten Ellis, the star of the game. The second star of the game, who had a fantastic night and gave everybody that little bit of comfort. It had been 1-0 for a long time. Peyton Krebs, a great goal by him in the first period. 2-on-1 play. Josh Norris, by the way, he easily could have been one of the 3 stars of this game. He was fantastic. He actually ends up with 2 assists, on the night, and had a major contribution in both. That first goal by Peyton Krebs, Norris gets the play started and then races ahead, beating out 2 Blue Jackets defenders to make it a 2-on-1. And by making it a 2-on-1, he forces the Columbus defenseman to take the pass and give Peyton Krebs the shot, which he ends up scoring on. That's 1 assist for Norris, and then he got one on the second Doan goal, which I'll talk about in a moment. But Doan, 2 goals, 25 goals on the year now. It had been 1-0 from that Krebs goal at the 13-minute mark of the first period, all the way to about the midway point of the third period. It had been a long time, 1-0. And I had some nerves, stress. I think a lot of Sabre fans did. It had that sound of anxiety in the crowd. It was a little bit of a lull, but that's not fans being checked out. That's fans, hands folded over your mouth, sitting on the edge of your seat, head kind of down, like, come on, get one, or just don't allow a big chance. It was an anxiety lull in the crowd. And then Doan, with the steal on Charlie Coyle, he's a hunter. He is one of the greatest strip players I have seen in the league. He's just after you all the time. And when Charlie Coyle is moving backwards with his head turned back towards his own goaltender, not seeing Doan coming from behind him, Josh Doan is seeing red. This guy, I am going to take the puck from this guy. It is going to be candy from a baby. I am going to steal this puck away with ease. And he comes up behind Coyle with a ton of speed, heavy underneath the stick, steals the puck away. And then it was key for him to keep moving, to have the puck keep moving. If that puck gets stuck in his feet, it's still a great play. The Sabres will then maybe get set up in the zone and have the puck for a little while and maybe create a couple of chances. But by keeping the puck moving in front of him, he allows it to become a rush attempt. And then it's just 1-on-1, Doan versus Jet Greaves. And he's got Gabranson coming from the weak side quick. So he's got to get this puck off fast. And he does just in time. It gets just a tiny piece of Greaves' pad, but not enough. And it finds its way through to make it 2-0. And then it's just a wave. The Jack Quinn goal, I got a 4-on-1 by Zucker to Stanley, who makes his best pass as a Sabre. He had a 2-assist night. He finds Quinn, gets his 20th goal of the year. And then that second Doan goal, that line, what a shift. Norris is just working these Columbus defensemen up and down the boards. They cannot take the puck from Josh Norris. He is such a good skater, Norris. And with his size added to that, he's such a difficult player to really handle if you're a defender. And he works the boards from down low to up high. He whips it back below to Benson and Doan, who have this chemistry working right now, find each other. Benson with the saucer pass across. Doan gets it to the back door for his second of the night. But 2 goals by Doan. I was looking this morning at his numbers, how they compare to his dad, Shane Doan. And they are on the exact same career trajectory to this point in their careers, which is to say Josh Doan could be as good as his dad. And you could argue he already is approaching being as good as his dad. He is as good as his dad at this age. 21, 22, 23 for these guys. is the same. By the way, the size is the same, 6'1" guys, and the games are similar, how they play the game, hard games, defensive, scoring, good at everything, maybe not elite at any one thing, but good at everything. And then there's the numbers. At 21 years old, Josh, 11 points. Excuse me, let me start over. Josh at 21 years old, 9 points. Shane, 11 points. At 22 years old, Josh, 19 points. Shane, 22 points. At 23 years old, Josh, 51 points. Shane, 51 points. Same trajectory. Maybe he's going to be Shane Doan 2.0 for a long time. It's certainly appearing like he's at least capable of it, and he's done it this year. So his incredible season continues. Benson, a good night. So many guys had a good night. Lindy Ruff said that Logan Stanley had his best game as a Sabre, and I would agree with him. It wasn't just that pass he made to Quinn. It was actually a play earlier in the period he made where he was getting a little bit of pressure, and he knew where everybody was. He knew the Columbus player was kind of turned the wrong way, so knew he had time to slam on the brakes, not panic, look up, find a guy. And he did that. And that's not how I think of Stanley. Stanley worries me sometimes because I feel like there's a little too much of head is down, feeling pressure, let me just throw it up the boards. And often that is how you get turnovers. But here it was head up, let me look, find a guy. There's a guy in the middle, got it to him, puck out. He did that multiple times in this game, but there was specifically one play early in the third where he did that. That was the most impressive. But then joining the rush, get up in there. That's the Sabres system. They want their defensemen joining the rush, and a great pass, tape to tape. He's not always accurate passing, and he scares me a little bit in that high cycle. There was one play he made where that was evidence in this one where the Sabres had the puck in the offensive zone. They're zooming around. Metsa and Stanley are working the high cycle with a couple forwards, and Metsa throws it across to Stanley, and he doesn't catch the pass. And if the Blue Jacket player had been in the wrong spot, that's a breakaway going the other direction. But luckily, they were able to get back and cover for it. There are some puck mistakes like that. Sometimes he throws a puck a little too far in front of a guy or a little too far behind a guy. But this pass was perfect. On the tape to Jack Quinn, right in the wheelhouse, through a defender, and you got the whole net to shoot at, and he puts it top shelf. So a well-deserved assist by Stanley. That was his best game of the season for the Sabres, in my opinion. He is locked in to playing for this team in the playoffs. And even though Metsa, I was kind of up and down on in this game, he had some turnovers early on. Those two work together. They really do. The size between the two, the puck skills, like that's the guy Stanley's played the most with. I think that's going to be your third pair going into the playoffs. There is a fourth line question that we're going to get to more in depth, but I want to tease here a little bit and just give my general thoughts at the forefront before we really find out where we're at with Noah Östlund. We should probably get an update on that in the next couple of days. Noah Östlund's been out for a little bit now, but nobody has said he's at risk of missing any playoff games. So until that is said, I'm going to treat it as though he's back for game one. We know now Sam Carrick will not be back for game one. It sounded like, oh, he'll be back just in time. Now it's no. Lindy said he will not be available for the start of the playoffs. Does that mean a round? Does that mean a game? Does that mean 2 games? We don't know. But it's at least a game. So no Carrick. Fourth line center has been rotating between Tyson Kozak and Josh Dunn since Carrick went out. But Östlund will return. And when he does, somebody in that top 9 either has to go down to line 4 or Östlund will just get plugged in on line 4 and they'll keep the top 3 lines the way that they've been the last couple of nights. And that'll be a good question. I think there are 3 candidates to play on the 4th line with likely Beck Malenstein and Jordan Greenway, but it might depend on who that guy is. I think it's Noah Östlund, Zach Benson, and Peyton Krebs. And I don't think that is a demotion for any of the 3 that is deserved. All three of those guys have been great. Krebs has been great. Benson's been amazing. Östlund's been great. But someone's got to go down. It's just a numbers game. And nobody else is going down. Doan's not going down there. Norris, McLeod, Zucker, Quinn. The Zucker, Quinn, McLeod line is going to stay together. They've been together for months. I can't imagine they split that up. So one of those three, I think, are the most likely. And who would it be? If it's Benson, then you need a center. So Greenway comes out, and then either Kozak or Dunn go in. If it's not that, and you want to keep Greenway available to you, then you're basically saying, okay, Benson stays with Norris and Doan. That line's been great. Keep that together. And now I got to pick. Do I want to move Krebs off the top line, make him the fourth line center, a role he's done for a long time in this league and has done well at, but also demote him off a role he's been really good at lately also, which is top line wing, and really have been good at it for months now. It's been 4 months since he's been really doing that and doing it well. But you could put him at fourth line center and put Östlund up top, or put Benson up top, put Östlund with Norris where he'd been playing. Or do you just say, easiest thing to do is put Östlund at fourth line center? And he's done some of that. And you know what? That would work. I know he's not big and physical, but that would work. He is good defensively. He's a good skater that could pair well with a Greenway, and he's a natural center. I think Östlund could absolutely do it. The one reason why I think we might not get that is because Lindy trusts Östlund a lot and loves the player. He always puts him out in important situations. He really stopped moving him down the lineup months ago. But again, it's a tough call. We'll get into it more. I'll expand on it more, some numbers with some of these lines and what that decision will end up looking like. Because the fourth line, suddenly goalie for the playoffs was really interesting. Then third pair for the playoffs was really interesting. And I feel like we've kind of landed on answers on both of those. Right now, I think fourth line is the most interesting lineup conversation for the playoffs. When we come back, the out-of-town scoreboard, the Montreal-Tampa game, and what could happen around the Sabres before they play next. Sneaky Joe DiBiase back here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. Maybe you were watching 2 games at once last night. Maybe you were just scoreboard watching. Maybe you didn't pay attention at all and just looked after. Montreal and Tampa last night, tied in the standings, 2 points below the Sabres, played an awesome hockey game. It was a mini version of Sabres Lightning 8-7. You didn't have the goals in this game like you did in that one, but you had all the emotion, all the energy, the crowd going crazy in Montreal, all the fights. I mean, you had Josh Anderson beating down a Lightning defenseman as bad as I've seen all year long. You had a mini brawl when Braden Point ran Canadiens goalie Jacob Dobish, and you've got 2 Tampa players going after 2 skilled Montreal guys that were not willing combatants, hitting them from behind, scummiest playing from the Lightning that you should not be surprised by. I've got Corey Perry going after Lane Hudson with the ref in between them because that's Perry. Perry was a menace in this game. Oh, maddening to watch. And you know what? The Lightning got punished for it in the same way they did in that 8-7 game against the Sabres. And more evidence why John Cooper should have no business even being a finalist for the Jack Adams Award. Because in that 8-7 game against the Sabres, what happened? The Lightning lost their composure. They couldn't take that a young team that hasn't been that good in the past has caught them. And not only has caught them in the standings, but is matching them physically. That's how it came off. The Lightning were soft against the Sabres. Ooh, we're mad because the Sabres are fighting us back, pushing back against us. And they took a lot of penalties in that game, and the Sabres scored on power plays, and they won the hockey game. This game, same thing. They tried pushing Montreal, and Montreal pushed back. And the Lightning couldn't handle it, and John Cooper's players totally lost their composure. And with that, you had a bunch of power plays in a row by the Canadiens, and they ended up with 7 power play opportunities on the night. They actually didn't even score on any of them, but 7 power play opportunities. That is 14 minutes, by the way. Tampa can't push to score, so it does end up mattering even if Montreal doesn't get anything. And then I got John Cooper, who this guy cannot take any accountability right now. The other night against the Sabres, he's yelling about firing the Sabres penalty box attendant. He's mad at him. He wants him fired. Then he's complaining about the injuries he's had in totality on the year. And he's complaining about now penalties being called and the officials and, well, what's happening here? Why are we getting 6 penalties called on us in a row? What, were we the instigators? Yeah, you were. And even if you didn't like the calls, you're using that as an excuse? Just, he is not coming off the way that he has come off to me in the past. And yeah, some of that is the rivalry and the standings in this race. But another part of it is, man, John Cooper is just he's an excuse machine right now. And it really is incredible to me that he would even be in the conversation right now to be the Jack Adams Award winner. As now they're in third place in the Atlantic, and they have such a slim chance to win the division with only a couple of games to go, 4 points back with 3 games to play against the Sabres. That game last night, remember, back to yesterday, the worst result wasn't 3 points. By the playoff odds, the worst result was Tampa in regulation, and that really never looked close. Montreal had the lead for so long. But when Tampa tied it, Darren Radish, with under 2 minutes to go, I was like, I was really rooting for Montreal in this game. And Radish, by the way, goes to the glass, and he's staring down a Montreal fan. He's telling him to sit down. So sweet to have Radish be chirping the fans for tying the game. And then 30 seconds later, Juraj Slafkovsky takes the lead 2-1 for them to win it in regulation. Oh, that was super sweet. So, right, we gotta flip it right back, root against Montreal. Tomorrow night they're against Columbus. But that was the best result because Montreal is 2 points back of the Sabres now, and the Sabres have the tiebreaker clinched. Tampa, 4 points back. Tomorrow night, two games, one in the afternoon, one at night. Tampa and Boston at 12:30 on ABC. You really want the Bruins to win that game for 2 reasons. I'll get to the second in a moment. But for one reason, if the Lightning lose in regulation to the Bruins, then all the Sabres will need is 1 point of a possible 4 in their final 2 games to stay ahead of Tampa. Montreal, meanwhile, if they lose in regulation to the Blue Jackets and you get that Lightning loss, then the Sabres can clinch the Atlantic Division by beating Chicago on Monday. So if you get a little bit of help, I don't know how likely that help is. It's not totally unfounded. I mean, Columbus is not dead. They look dead, but they're 2 points out of a playoffs. Maybe they can channel one last burst against Montreal. And Boston is a playoff team, so we'll see. Can they push Tampa in this one? The other reason, by the way, you want to be rooting for the Bruins is because here comes Ottawa. Ottawa now, after winning 3 in a row and Boston losing a bunch in a row, the Senators are now only 2 points back of the Bruins. They have the same amount of games played. 3 games to go, 2 points back. And Ottawa will have the tiebreaker if they were to tie. So the Bruins got to stay ahead. And you should want to play the Bruins. I want to play the Bruins much more than I would want to play the Senators. The Senators are a better team, better roster, better numbers, not as good of goaltending. But Linus Ullmark's looking better. And I don't know how trustworthy that is for the playoffs. That still, I think, could go really poorly. But he's looking a lot better as of late. And he's won all 3 of those games, allowing 6 goals total in the 3 wins. And he had that 1-goal performance against the Sabres last week. So you want Boston over Ottawa. And that's another reason to be rooting for the Bruins in this one. The Senators, meanwhile, if you are wondering, they are in action tomorrow in the afternoon as well. They are at the New York Islanders. So you should be rooting for the Islanders, in my opinion, in that one. All right. Out-of-town scoreboard should be fun to track. If you want to get in about those games and have a conversation about the fourth line, get into our Discord, lockdownsabres.supercast.com. Become a part of our everyday squad. We'll talk to you on Monday ahead of Sabres and Blackhawks. Hopefully, clinch the division. Got to get some help. That'll do it for us today, this week in the Locked On Sabres podcast. We'll talk to you after the weekend. You're on Locked On Sabres, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now your #1 sports podcast network.